Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Russian President Vladimir Putin has announced a temporary ceasefire in the war in Ukraine. The Kremlin has said the ceasefire will run from the morning of the 8th of May until the 11th of May, which coincides with victory celebrations to mark the end of World War II. In a statement, it said Mr. Putin declared the ceasefire based on humanitarian considerations. The Kremlin announced a similar 30-hour truce over Easter, but while both sides reported a dip in fighting, they both accused each other of hundreds of violations. The latest announcement comes during what the US has described as a very critical week for Russia-Ukraine peace talks. A massive power cut has hit parts of Spain and Portugal. The mayor of Madrid has warned people to stay off the roads and only call the emergency services if it's truly urgent. Shops and restaurants in the Spanish capital were plunged into darkness. Spanish power operator Red Eléctrica said there are blackouts across the country. In Portugal, police say traffic lights are not working and the metro in Lisbon and Porto is closed. Spain's national railway company says the country's entire national electricity grid was cut off at 12:30 local time. Play was suspended at the Madrid Open too, due to the power outage currently affecting the Spanish capital and surrounding region. Cardinals will meet next month in a secret conclave to elect the next pope, that's according to the Vatican. The closed-door meeting will start inside the Sistine Chapel on the 7th of May and will involve some 135 cardinals from across the world. It follows the death of Pope Francis, who died at the age of 88 on Easter Monday, and whose funeral was held on Saturday. There is no timescale as to how long it will take to elect the next pope, but the previous two conclaves, held in 2005 and 2013, lasted just 2 days. A Vatican spokesperson said cardinals will take part in a solemn mass at St. Peter's Basilica, after which those eligible to vote will gather in the Sistine Chapel for the secretive ballot. At least 68 African migrants have been killed in a US airstrike on a detention center in Houthi-controlled northwestern Yemen. That's according to the armed group's TV channel. Al Masirah reported that another 47 migrants were injured, most of them critically, when the center in Sadr province was bombed. It posted graphic footage showing multiple bodies covered in the rubble of a destroyed building. There was no immediate comment from the US military, but it came hours after US Central Command announced that its forces had hit more than 800 targets since President Donald Trump ordered an intensification of the air campaign against the Houthis. 25 people have been arrested in early morning raids across France in response to a wave of coordinated attacks on prisons and the homes of prison officers in April. Raids took place across the country on Monday, including the capital Paris, Marseille and Bordeaux in the south and the city of Lyon. French Justice Minister Gérald Darmanin has suggested the attacks are the work of gangs who are retaliating against a new government crackdown on drug trafficking. The most serious incidents took place over the course of 5 nights earlier this month, with vehicles being set alight and 2 prisons being targeted by gunfire in what Darmanin described as terrorist attacks. And a study in 8 countries, including the UK and the US, suggests that people who eat lots of ultra-processed foods may be at greater risk of dying early. Processed meats, biscuits, fizzy drinks, ice cream, and some breakfast cereals are examples of UPFs, which are becoming increasingly common in diets worldwide. The studies looked at surveys of people's diets and a date on deaths from 8 countries: Australia, Brazil, Canada, Chile, Colombia, Mexico, the UK, and the US.
Our studies are a variety of limitations, but one of the advantages is that we take complete control over people's food environments and we can measure exactly what they eat. We're giving them very simple instructions. Just eat as much or as little as you like. You shouldn't be trying to gain weight or lose weight. One study is not going to answer all the questions that we need to answer. We need a lot more research in this area to address not just the obesity question, but the variety of other conditions that diets high in ultra-processed foods are linked with. So this is just the first piece of the puzzle.
And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.